Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. President Biden has announced US sanctions on Russia, which he said went far beyond those imposed after the annexation of Crimea. They include moves to block trade involving two large Russian banks and stop Russia from raising money from the West or trade debt in its financial systems. Our correspondent, Barbara Plett-Usher, says these sanctions are only the start.
The sanctions are harsh, the sanctions on two major financial institutions, blocking them, which means they're not able to, their assets will be frozen and they're not able to deal with U.S. institutions, and also putting sanctions on sovereign debt, which means that the Russian government cannot raise money in the West, which is no small thing. But the way that they're presenting it is that this is going to be a rolling process. So this is the first tranche of sanctions. There were measures that we had been told about that they are contemplating, which Mr. Biden did not announce. So he's holding those back.
Russia's upper house of parliament has approved a request by President Putin to use troops abroad. The decision gives the green light to the deployment of Russian military forces in the separatist-held region of eastern Ukraine. In a televised press conference, Mr. Putin said he recognized the borders of the separatist statelets as outlined in their constitutions, which includes territory under Ukrainian government control. He also called on Ukraine to give up its ambition to join NATO. Caroline Davis is in Moscow.
A day after Russia recognized two Moscow-backed separatist-held areas in eastern Ukraine, its parliament has approved the use of the army outside of Russia's boundaries. President Putin said on Monday that troops would be sent to both regions. He said that they'd be used for peacekeeping, which the US described as nonsense. The voting was broadcast live on Russian state TV. Of the 153 Russian senators who took part, none voted against or abstained.
The former US President Donald Trump has described Vladimir Putin's orders to send troops into Ukraine as genius. Speaking on a right-wing radio show, Mr. Trump said he thought it wonderful and smart that Mr. Putin had called his soldiers peacekeepers, sent them to Ukraine, and then declared a large part of the country independent. A jury in the United States has found three white men who murdered a black jogger guilty of federal hate crimes. The three defendants had already been sentenced to life in prison last month for killing Ahmaud Arbery. Speaking after the verdict, the U.S. Attorney General, Merrick Garland, paid tribute to the family of Mr. Arbery.
I cannot imagine the pain that a mother feels to have her son run down and then gunned down while taking a jog on a public street. My heart goes out to her and to the family.
World News from the BBC. Dutch police say a hostage situation in an Apple computer store in Amsterdam has ended. They say the man, who earlier was seen brandishing a gun and holding someone hostage, is an employee at the store. He's in police custody and being checked on the street by a robot for explosives or weapons. An Israeli court has suspended the planned eviction of a Palestinian family in East Jerusalem's Flashpoint neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah. The Salem family had been ordered to surrender the property to Jewish settlers who have claimed ownership of it. Palestinian health officials say a 14-year-old boy has been shot dead in the occupied West Bank by Israeli forces. They say the incident happened near Bethlehem in the town of Al-Hada. In a statement, the Israeli military said the Palestinian boy, Mohammed Shahada, had thrown a petrol bomb before being shot by soldiers. Gary Brooker, the lead singer of the English rock band Procol Harum, has died at the age of 76. A statement posted on the band's official website said the singer, composer and pianist had died peacefully at his home on Saturday after a battle with cancer. He co-wrote and sang Procol Harum's classic debut song, A Whiter Shade of Pale. David Sillito reports.
May 1967, and the hit song of what would become known as the Summer of Love was from a newly formed group called Procol Harum, fronted by singer Gary Brooker. Born in London, he'd started performing in the early 60s, but everything took off when he formed Procol Harum. When they split in the 70s, he performed with a number of other artists, including Eric Clapton, before reforming the band that had created one of the defining songs of the 60s. Turn the whiter shade of pale.
David Sillito reporting. BBC News.